Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg meeting with the president last night following a day full of meetings with lawmakers to discuss what else, tech regulation. The meetings come as Facebook, along with Apple, Amazon, and Google, face an antitrust investigation by the FTC.
For more, let's bring in Kara Swisher. She's editor-at-large at Recode. Kara, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
No problem.
Sounds like Senator Hawley asked him to sell Instagram and WhatsApp. Doesn't sound like he was too receptive to that idea.
No, I don't. He's been trying to actually integrate them closer together. But, Senator Hawley's been very aggressively talking to Facebook. And I think he probably told him what was on the mind of a lot of people is, what are you going to do about this massive power you have in social media? But I doubt Mark is going to take his suggestion willingly.
What do you think Mark had to say to sort of ease some of the fears about the power that they have in that area?
Well, what is there to say? We're doing better. We're so sorry. We'll do better this time. You know, they announced today that they were banning a number of apps from the site, a lot of them. It's essentially doing the job they should have done before, which is clean up the service and get rid of apps that take too much information from people, who abuse people's privacy. This is cleanup they needed to do a long time. Obviously, him just physically being here, these people don't like to come here and do this. So he was sort of having dinners and being charming, putting on a charm offensive. And then, they're doing this Supreme Court thing that they're trying to do, essentially, at Facebook, which is to gather a group of people, 40 people, that will determine big issues on the site. Not issues, big content problems and stuff. So they're trying a lot of things, including, just cleaning up the site in a way that makes it safer for people.
Yeah, it's not easy for any of them. Kara, I don't know if you saw this tweet from Susan Wojcicki today of YouTube apologizing for the frustration of users trying, I guess, this new approach to verification. Right. But even the fixes that they have in place in some of these companies are not going over well.
Well, no, I mean, they did this New York Times, Taylor Lawrence had a great story about YouTube creators being upset because they got unverified, which can affect their monetization. It can affect their popularity. And they've been built on the backs of the creators doing interesting things. And so, some of them, if they don't meet a criteria, got unverified, whatever that means. And so, I mean, I know what it means, but you know what I mean? How do they decide this? And I think the lack of transparency was the issue here, or how do they make these decisions? And so no matter what they do to try to clean up the sites, they're so big and so important to people's businesses, they're going to attract a lot of negative attention, almost whatever move they make. I don't envy their problem right now.
Meantime, Kara, Oracle's Larry Ellison reportedly calling out WeWork and Uber at this event at his house in San Francisco. According to Barron's, he called WeWork and Uber almost worthless, blasted Uber's app, saying they have an app my cat could have ridden. What's in it for Ellison to step out like this?
Oh, he's just like that. He's also got a very talented coding cat, obviously. I think he's just, he's like that. He says what's on his mind. He didn't mention Theranos, which he was a big investor in, but that's besides the point. I think he's just voicing what a lot of people do say. Like there's challenges to Uber's economics. Obviously, the same thing with WeWork. I think the issue is math. And math is a problem for these companies. And so the question is, can they, they certainly are adept at creating great brands. Both of them are great brands. They're adept at creating interesting services. But his point, I think, in a sort of a Larry Ellison style, using a cat as an example, is this stuff is easy and it's not defensible. It doesn't have moats, such as Oracle does, which in fact it does in many ways, although they're under pressure with cloud and everything else. So I think it's just Larry being Larry, would be my guess.
It's interesting because Rosengren of the Fed brought up WeWork today as a major concern, potentially, for an economic risk. I mean, I think that there are a number of different people in high-profile positions that are starting to scratch their head at what's going on with WeWork and the valuation and the ripple effects that it could cause if this goes sour.
Yeah, this may have been the firewall that had to be breached about some of these non-economic companies that may be promising but aren't ready for prime time for investors. It's one thing if SoftBank wants to throw money down a hole. It's an entirely other thing if they want to go public and foist this stuff on the investing public. And so that's, I think, the issue. I don't know if it's so dangerous necessarily. They have a business of however many $1 million they make. and I don't know if it's going to ripple through the U.S. economy because WeWork has problems. But they're representative of a mindset that maybe Wall Street is finally waking up to, which is really growth is one thing, but making money is critically important. And some of these businesses that are putting themselves off as tech companies are not tech companies, or they don't have the same scalability. So.
That's without a doubt true, Karen. It is no surprise that they would want to portray themselves as tech companies. But sure. I find it interesting that Larry Ellison is kind of doing the software snob thing and saying this really is an elegantly engineered software. It's not really a barrier to entry. Yeah. But does it also mean that the pure tech stuff has run up against some kind of a limit to just the next big thing as well? I mean, obviously, we're mostly talking about these relatively mundane things like office space and taxi cabs as big tech companies right now.
But those are physical things, and every new customer costs more. I mean, with software, once you have it made and created, it doesn't cost, everything is gravy after that. That's how it's been for many years. And so I think what he's talking about is that these are non-economic, I guess, compared to the software industry. Now, the issues around innovation in software is a whole other question. And the only thing I would say is everyone times says there's no innovation, there's nothing new coming, something comes along. And so there's all this interesting stuff around AI, automation, robotics, even things like how to do healthcare better. There's all kinds of opportunity. Climate change. I've always said the world's first trillionaire or the next billionaire is going to be someone who tackles the climate change thing successfully, successfully.
Yeah, pictures today of these protests, unbelievable. One last thing on Kara. Are the people you're talking to convinced that this is truly a delay in the IPO and not a cancellation?
I don't know. I think they think they're going forward. I think they're not going forward. This is not going forward. And they've got a lot of debt problems. So it's, again, it's a great brand. The question is, how big a business is it? And is it, it's certainly not a $47 billion valued business. Now it's down to whatever it's down to. It may just be a $3 or $4 billion, a really nice small company. I don't know. That'll be a big disappointment for the people who put money into it in the later stages, and also early investors. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to go public, and I think they do. They're going to go into a really tough market for themselves.